Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunday School this week. I just wanted to tell us we have a special guest leading Sunday School with us. This is Tanya. So Tanya's going to help us do Sunday School this morning. But let's get started, and we're going to sing our song that we've been working on for the past 4 weeks. And it is What We Need. So here we go.
In an argument or you were fighting with somebody. And if you could, if you've got a parent or a sibling, a brother or sister that you can talk to, or maybe a friend that's with you, why don't you describe to each other what it was like during that fight? How come it was so difficult? And also, how did it end? Take a moment and think about that, and then just discuss it amongst yourselves.
What about you, Tanya? Did you ever have any sort of an argument or a fight with someone that you remember?
I do. I remember fighting with my brother. It seems like we were always fighting.
Yeah. And
it's amazing some of the things that we could say to each other that were just so incredibly mean. Mm-hmm. And yet, at the end of the day, we were also some of the best friends in the family. We moved around a lot, so my brother and sister had to be my best friends the whole time I grew up. Yeah. And today, we get along really, really well. Every once in a while, we still have a disagreement, but it's not like when we were kids.
Yeah, I would probably agree. My brother and I fought like cats and dogs all the time. I don't know how my mother is like still sane after all of those years of us fighting, but yeah, I would agree. I think, at the end of the day, we always somehow made up. We shared a bedroom, so, that was a big thing. We always made up at the end of the day, and yeah, my brother and I are pretty good friends now, too. It's always funny how adulthood, when you become an adult, it changes your relationship with your siblings. It's kind of fun.
Oh, thank heavens they're around.
Yes, yeah.
So ask yourself, have you ever heard the word mercy? Sometimes we hear mercy and we don't really know what that means. It means not getting back at someone even though they might deserve it. So for instance, if my brother socked me in the arm because he was angry with me, I didn't necessarily have to sock him back, even though I knew he deserved it. That's called mercy. Why don't you discuss a little bit other situations where you can show mercy, not revenge, or if they deserve to have it back, you don't have to give it back.
Yeah, so this time you can pause the video and you can talk about this and kind of get your parents' thoughts on mercy, your siblings, and maybe come up with your own thoughts. But should we move to the story?
Yes. Today's story comes out of 2 Kings, and it's chapter 6, and we're going to read verses 8 through 23, just in case you want to get your Bible out. When Aram was at war with Israel, every time the king of Aram tried to make a plan to attack, Israel found out about it. They were ready, and Aram's attacks failed. The king of Aram called his people together and said, "Is someone here a spy? How does Israel always know where we're going to be?" And one of his officers said, No one, my king. Elisha, the prophet in Israel, knows all that you say, even when you say it alone The king said, "Where is he? We need to capture him." "He is in Dothan," came the answer. So the king of Aram sent horses and chariots and an army to surround that city at night. When Elisha's servant woke in the morning, he saw that they were surrounded and cried out, "What shall we do?" Elisha reassured him, "Don't be afraid. More are with us than with them." Elisha prayed for his attendants' eyes to be opened, and suddenly the young man saw the surrounding mountains filled with horses and chariots of fire. When the Arameans came to attack, Elisha prayed again, this time that they would be made blind. When they were, Elisha said to them, "This is not the way you're trying to go. This is not the city you want to get to. Follow me. I'll bring you to the man you want." But he led them to Samaria. They opened their eyes and they could see, and they saw they were deep in the territory of their opponent. The king of Israel saw them too, and he said, "Should I kill them? Well, should I?" But Elisha cried out, "No, feed them, give them something to drink, send them home." The king prepared a great feast and shared it with those he'd been fighting against, and their enemies ate and drank and went home, and they never attacked again. That is mercy.
Get the coloring out. So this is a good time where we can get our coloring pages out and some colored pencils or some crayons or markers, whatever you want to color with. And we're just going to kind of talk. I have to get my coloring pages, so I will be coloring the pages that are kind of like a storybook. And then Tanya is going to color this really cool
It's about the feast.
yeah, picture about the feast. Yeah, they put their weapons down on the table, or it looks like it's on the table, and they ate and drank. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, imagine that you're king and Elisha. How would you have felt if you were them facing this huge army from Aram?
That's a good question. I think I would have been pretty scared, to be surrounded by this giant army full of people who want to capture you or hurt you. Yeah, I think it would be very scary.
I don't think they were friendly at all. I was thinking about the attendant who was alarmed and very frightened, and I thought, yeah, that'd be me. I just don't see, it just would be very scary.
And it seems like Elisha kind of really kept his cool. You know what I mean? He didn't really let it bug him. He really, I think that shows that he had really great faith. Why might Elisha have told the king to feed the enemy army a big feast rather than to fight back?
I wonder if that was so that it was one way of extending peace. I know that Elisha told him he needed to do this, and happily the king did follow it, his suggestion. I wonder if that was one way of saying, hey, instead of fighting each other, why don't we just stay where we are in our own kingdoms and live our lives and be at peace with each other. And by showing kindness instead of trying to hurt them, they were able to go back to their king and suggest that maybe they ought to just leave the Israelites alone.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty accurate idea.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably about keeping peace as well. Wars have a great effect on land and countries and kingdoms and things like that. And so maybe they realized that it's more important to care for other human beings and not fight them. I don't know.
the phrase overcome evil with good or love is stronger than hate, how do you think this story shows the truth and power of those statements?
Yeah.
That's a big concept.
That is a big concept. That's kind of a hard question. Well, I mean, love is stronger than hate. I think because the king of the Israelites, am I understanding that? Yes, it's the king of the Israelites that fed them.
Yes.
I think maybe they realized with Elisha's help that not a lot of good comes from death and destruction, and so they maybe realized that it's important to show care and support and love for their neighbor. What do you think?
I think that those phrases are really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
I think overcoming evil with good, it's so tempting to, like I said, sock my brother in the arm after he socked me.
Right.
It's so tempting to get revenge because someone got really badly hurt by your enemy. But if we don't do that, then when does it stop?
Right.
Where does it stop? I mean, I could hurt somebody, then they're going to be mad that I hurt their friend, and they're going to come and get me, or they might come get my family, and it just
kind of
so how do you have to stop?
Yeah,
so,
it just kind of turns into this big circle that it just
Right.
never really stops. Yeah.
So I think the whole idea here is make it stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. Just don't do evil.
Yeah. Don't do things that could cause other people hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there someone in your life right now who has been unkind to you and whom you want to hurt back? Well, this is a tough question. And what would a response of compassion look like instead of revenge?
I would say right now I don't have anybody in my life that I want to get revenge on. I would say in my past there has been. And for me personally, what I've discovered is revenge, well, first of all, it never happened. I mean, there was no chance for revenge. But I think those thoughts of revenge hurt me emotionally, my insides, my spirit, more than it was worth. So the fact that I was able to learn not to have those thoughts of revenge made my life more peaceful.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think that revenge doesn't ever really make anyone feel good after it's done.
Part of the problem with that is after it's all done with revenge, you still have the problem. You still got hurt.
Yep. So what do you think active compassion or a response of compassion would look like instead of revenge? Like what would you say?
Forgiving.
Yeah, that was the word that came to my mind too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just absolutely forgiving someone for the fact that they did wrong.
Yep.
They may not ask for that forgiveness, but just being able to walk away and say, I forgive them and I don't have to do this anymore and I don't have to be part of this madness is the biggest thing.
Yeah, sometimes forgiveness isn't so much for other people, it's more for ourselves.
Sometimes it is for other people.
And sometimes it is, yeah.
Absolutely. Recently, a friend of mine and I had a parting of the ways for a while, and we're back together again, and we forgave each other for whatever hurt we had done to one another. And it's so nice to have my friend back.
Yeah, it's always tough to go through those sorts of things, but when you can have them back, it's always really, really good.
Yep. How about you?
I don't really think of there's anybody in my life that I would want to get revenge on either. I'm a pretty even-keeled person, I guess you could say. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't really let a lot bother me. If that makes sense, I don't know. But yeah, I think the biggest act of compassion or responsive compassion that I can think of would be forgiveness. You know, forgiving someone for any sort of wrong that they did, whether they, like you said, whether they asked for it or not.
Yeah. Totally agree. So,
What's the next question? Let's
yeah.
see. So I can grab a color here.
Can you think of a time when you were expecting more fighting and instead there was a peace and celebration instead?
Ooh.
Wow. That one's a hard one.
Gosh.
I'm kind of coming up with a blank on that one.
Yeah, that one's kind of a hard question too.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say on that.
Maybe we'll have to skip that question and go to
Let's
the next
skip
one.
that
Let's
one.
skip that one for now.
Yeah.
But if you can think of a time when you expected more fighting while you're at home, think about it and think if there was more peace and celebration instead. Why do you think there was? But so showing compassion, excuse me, showing compassion to those who hurt us is not the same as being passive, giving up, or letting them do whatever they want to us. Showing compassion or mercy is an action of love. Where and how do you think you find the strength to take these kinds of actions? So where and how do you think you find the strength to take these kinds of actions of mercy and love and not hate and fighting?
Wow,
There's some deep questions.
these are really hard questions.
Yeah.
I would say for me, the way I find the strength to be compassionate versus trying to do the opposite, which is basically get revenge or to hurt someone, I usually have to spend a lot of time in prayer with God and have a long conversation with Him. And it might take me a few days. Sometimes it can take me a few years. But I think that conversation with God and finding out what is the right way to go is probably the thing that keeps me on an even keel. It's been a long time since I felt this way, but I guess that would be my answer. How about you?
Yeah. I always remember relationships. Like, I had an argument with my sister this summer, actually, when she was home, and then I thought, after we had our argument, I thought to myself, she's only visiting for a few days from Florida, and I only get to see her once a year, or twice a year, maybe. And so, keeping that relationship close and remembering the love that I have for her is more important to me than an argument that we had. And so, of course, I apologized, for the argument. And, we were fine afterwards. But I think remembering the importance of the relationships that you have with people is how I kind of approach compassion and mercy. And then I really do think you're right. I think, asking for help and praying on it and really thinking about it and just maybe even listening for an answer, I think is a good way.
I know that my conversations with God were important, but God also gave me a brain. And so I had conversations with other people, and they helped guide me too. But it was the most important conversation was my conversation with God. So, yeah. God doesn't just leave you out there all by yourself. He really does surround you with people that love you and can help.
Yeah. Well, how's your coloring going? Mine's kind of slow.
Mine was slow, but I got the bread and I got the pitcher of wine done.
That picture's very cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that pattern on the
Yeah.
tablecloth. Yep. Yeah, so I kind of picked and chose what colors I was going to use and where I was going to color them. But yeah, so keep coloring, and we're going to do compassion in action now.
Yep.
So take it away, Tanya.
One of the things we would love for you to do, if you can, is show other people compassion. And you can just show them the love that you have just for another human being. One of the ways you could do it is maybe take a piece of paper and write, "God loves you," and decorate it. Or you can say, "I'm so glad you're in my faith family," and decorate it and color it. And find somebody that's in our church and put it in the mail. Have your parents help you put it in the mail. They'll help you find the address if they have a church directory. Or maybe you can even hide notes around the house for your sister or your brother to find, or your mom and dad to find. That's another thought. Or you can even do this at school and give some of your friends a note that shows that you really enjoy being around them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something simple. I like you. I'm glad you're my friend.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always nice to be reminded that we have friends that care about us and people in our lives that care about us. Yep. So, well, with that, let's go to our closing prayer. And as we do with every single prayer we do in Sunday school, let's take a big, deep breath in and hold it and let it out. Yeah. Dear God, thank you for teaching us that through compassion, conflict can be turned around. Give us the strength to treat our enemies with mercy, not getting back at them, even if they may deserve it, so we can all live peacefully in our relationships. And all God's children said, Amen. And with that, let's sing our closing song that we always sing every week. It is What We Need. So we sang the chorus, and then I sang the verse. I'll sing the verse, you sing the chorus, and we'll have a good time. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.